her fame. It's also a place that some people find hard to leave, even after death.
My name's Gail Porter, and I'm a skeptic.
My name is Chris Fleming, and I am a sensitive.
We have just one weekend to investigate alleged sightings and hauntings of Hollywood ghosts.
A sensitive can detect paranormal events beyond the range of the 5 senses.
After travelling across America in search of the paranormal, I wouldn't say I'm a non-believer, but I'm definitely still a skeptic. And together, our mission is to investigate.
And for anyone new to the show, stick around because we've got 3 days of the best paranormal investigation ahead of us.
And joining us to host events here at the Los Angeles Theatre is Mr. Chris Parker. It's also showbiz.
It's great, isn't it?
It's so showbiz.
Thank you very much. I couldn't ask for a better location to call home here for the next 3 days. We are in the most glamorous old picture palace in downtown Los Angeles, once the heart of the movie capital. It's got clear star connections: Charlie Chaplin, Judy Garland and James Mansfield, to name just 3. And allegedly, it's got ghosts, but more of that later.
Ghosts, that's what we want. We want a big ghost. This theatre is a maze of astounding rooms filled with unusual features. We're going to explore every single one of them, from the very creepy little nursery to the crying rooms, which were like claustrophobic, soundproof booths for mothers to watch their movies with their children.
And every night we've got 4 webcams set up around the Los Angeles Theatre, including Julie Garland's rhinestone comb, that we set up as a trigger object in the ladies' powder room. You can check them out on the website at livingtv.co.uk/deadfamouslive.
And we want to know if you spot anything unusual on the show or on the webcams. If you do, then you can email us via the website or text FAMOUS to 83444, followed by your message. Remember to include your name and location, and you must be over 18 to take part. It costs 25p plus your standard network charges.
And we want to know what you think about the happenings on the show too. So just join in with the different votes that we will be running all night. Well, it's time for us to get started. Chris and I are going to head off now into the dark heart of this old theatre to begin our investigation into the dead famous.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Good luck. See ya. See you guys. Now, as I said earlier, this theatre definitely has the star connections, but will they appear to us tonight? It's supposedly haunted, so let's find out a little bit more about the Los Angeles Theatre.
Broadway, downtown Los Angeles, is home to the grandest old picture palaces, dating back to the 1920s and 1930s. Today, many of these former shrines to the silver screen are in a bad shape, but one has clung on to its former glory and is still considered one of the most lavish movie theatres in the world. The famous Los Angeles Theatre.
It is truly over the top in every way. It's beautifully ornate. They spared no expense in putting together a spectacular experience for the moviegoer. Everything from the grand staircase up to the beautiful fountain. You could go into the powder room where each of the different stalls has 16 different kinds of marble specific to each one. There was a manicurist and a cosmetician, and there was a nursery where you could drop your children off so they could play while you watched the film.
The intention was to mimic the Palace of Versailles. Designed in the Baroque style, it was the most expensive theatre built. However, the Los Angeles was erected at the height of the Great Depression, and as times got harder, the money began to run out. Fortunately, Charlie Chaplin was on hand to help.
Chaplin actually was planning to release one of his latest movies called City Lights. And the big studios weren't that interested because it was still a silent movie. Chaplin felt so passionately about City Lights, which was silent, that he wanted to handle it on his own, which he did, and he needed a grand theater to have its premiere. So he agreed he would finish whatever the costs were to get the theater going in return for having his major premiere there.
Oh, it's so exciting, I can't wait. Now, if you want to stand a chance of winning a marvellous trip to the Dead Famous set in LA for 2 in January 2006, complete the following sentence. Chris Fleming is known as A, a psychologist, B, an astrologer, or C, a sensitive. To enter the competition, phone 09015 339988. Entries will cost no more than £1 and you must be over 18 to enter. Full terms and conditions are on the website livingtv.co.uk/deadfamouslive. Digital viewers can press the red button on their remote control now as well. Now, we're hoping to discover the truth about this old place tonight, and Gail and Chris are in place to begin. Gail, where are you?
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
We're actually, at the moment, we're on the stage down in the auditorium. It's very, very dark here. Now, this auditorium, Charlie Chaplin came here to see the premiere of his film City Lights. Bizarrely enough, he came with Mr. and Mrs. Albert Einstein. But on this stage, apparently, there have been dark figures. So we're going to see, Chris and I, if he can feel if the presence of Charlie Chaplin is still in this theatre, because it played such a huge part in his life. So we're just going to see what happens and come back to you in a minute.
Let's hope we get some cracking stuff. Yeah, good luck, guys. Well, Gail and Chris will be starting that investigation in the auditorium straight after this break, so don't go away. Welcome back. We'll go back over to Gail and Chris in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to introduce our studio team who will be here every day over this weekend to shed some light on the happenings in our investigations. With me are medium Carla Barron, parapsychologist Lloyd Auerbach, and historians Mark Wanamaker and Jim Robert Parrish. But also here tonight is theatre manager Carrie Upton. Now, Carrie, do you think this theatre is definitely haunted? You've worked here for 6 months and you work here alone quite a lot. What have you experienced? You're the theatre manager. Tell us what you've experienced.
Well, in the last 6 months, I spend a lot of time alone here, and I have found that there is a lot of activity, a lot of things that have happened, especially certain places as I go down to the nursery.
What places?
Going down to the nursery, down to the women's restroom.
What have you experienced in the nursery?
Well, not so much for me, but in the women's restroom, whenever I walked down, I was walking down
there. What were you doing there in the women's restroom?
Yeah,
You're a guy. No, it's all right, go on.
I was going down to check something, and as I walked in one day, one of the restroom doors swung open, and I thought, okay, I'll just go work somewhere else. And as I turned around, the next one slammed closed.
No way. Gosh, that's crazy. And so you've obviously experienced that. How about the mechanical room? I spoke to you earlier, and you said that something strange happened there.
It's a very dark and cold place. It's like breezes come by, and there's always sort of a shadow of something. Every time you turn, it's like, is that something? Is that something?
Really?
It's a rather spooky place.
And so do you think we'll pick up any activity tonight?
I think it's possible.
Yeah?
The place sort of wants to be alive.
Do you get scared working here on your own? Because, you know, I would. I had to walk to makeup on my own, and I was really, really scared. So how many days are you here alone? Do you get scared?
I'm here most every day alone, and not much.
Really?
You know, the office is quiet at least.
Yeah? Well, you're a brave man. You really are. Now, Mark, you're a great historian. You've worked with Richard Attenborough and the likes of those people. What stars have got a connection to this theatre?
Well, there were several. I mean, Charlie Chaplin, of course, opened the theatre, so that's very important.
Yeah.
And Judy Garland, Jane Mansfield, they had first-run films here. And, of course, this was sort of like an independent theater in which different studios could premiere their films here. Now, you have to understand, this was the last major movie palace in downtown Los Angeles.
Right.
Right at the beginning, pretty much, of the Depression. So a lot of films eventually were not premiered here. They started to go back up to Hollywood and other places, leaving this kind of the dowager of Broadway.
Great. Okay, we'll hear more from you later on, Mark. James, what was Charlie Chaplin like?
Well, he was quite an adventurous person as far as his filmmaking, that he made films that people who were very common working class people could relate to. And that's what made him so world famous, is that anybody could look at his movies and see something in it that they felt made them part of it all. He wasn't above them, but part of them. In his private life, of course, he led a much different lifestyle.
Right.
Much more glamorous and much more aristocratic.
Okay, and you've worked on 100 books, you're a huge Hollywood historian. Have you heard many stories about ghostly happenings here? Are there many that have been documented, or?
Well, I think sometimes when a picture flopped, it was pretty haunted.
Really? Carla, now you're a psychic. You saw your first psychic at 11 years old. You've studied theatre, you've been in this theatre earlier, you had a walk around, it was your first time here. You haven't studied it before, have you? You haven't researched this theatre? No, so what was it like? What was your initial reaction when you walked through here?
I feel like I'm in New York instead of Los Angeles, actually. I kept forgetting I was actually in the heart of Los Angeles. So I'm walking around, and besides almost tripping down the stairs, but it's got a certain, there are smells associated with this that aren't of old theaters.
Really? What
that
sort
are
of
telling
smells?
me. Well, it's telling me that there may be presences here anyway. They're sulfur smells. And I was getting this in a cemetery a couple of nights ago. I was actually investigating a case, and I had that same smell. So I want to investigate a little bit more.
Really?
With Chris and
well,
Gail.
let's let Gail and Chris investigate. They're going to go over to the auditorium now. Gail, are you there?
Yes, we are. It's very spooky here.
Really?
Yeah, Chris has actually been feeling some things already. It's as if we've seen sort of dark figures sort of around. It's so difficult because it is pitch black